in. Thank you for joining me on today's edition of Inside the News. Today we will be sitting down with some members of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, SKNYPA, and we will be having a conversation on the resolutions that were debated at the association's Youth Parliament sitting, which was held on Monday, September 13, 2021. And the resolutions debated were the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis and the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. These are the two resolutions that were debated, and some of the members from government side and opposition side will be in studio to expound on these resolutions and to further defend their position as to why these resolutions should come to fruition. It is just 5 minutes past the hour of 11, and we're going to be joined by the members shortly. We're just standing by for those members to join us to have this conversation. For those of you who are interested in participating in the program, whether you want to call in, the numbers are 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. You can also send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204, 662-2204. That's where you can pose your questions and comments and just give your general feedback about the presentations that will be made by the youth parliamentarians on today's show. Have any other questions, you can also send us an email at info@winmediaskn.com. We'll be taking your questions and your comments via those mediums. We're also live on social media at Facebook, Win Media SKN, as well as YouTube, our YouTube channel at Win Media SKN, Periscope, and Twitch. This is WinFM 98.9, and I'm your host for today's edition, Devonne Cornelius. I trust that you guys had a wonderful and productive week, and I wish you nothing but the best for the week ahead. I know it's quite challenging, the COVID-19 pandemic and lots of people not working and all of that, so I know it's really challenging for most people out there, but I wish you a productive week ahead, and I hope that the goals that you want to achieve come next week will be achieved. We're going to say a quick thank you to the sponsors for our program, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by some youth parliamentarians shortly. So let's say thank you to the sponsors for this show, and when we come back, we'll start Inside the News. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Gift for Dad's birthday? Click. Ooh, Janice's retirement party? Click. Outfit for my girl's wedding? Click. With TDC Airbox, you click, we ship. Register for your free U.S. mailbox today and shop all your favorite stores online. Enjoy the convenience. Free consolidation up to 10 pounds. Competitive rates. Free package tracking account with live notifications. Free delivery and, of course, excellent customer service. Visit our website at tdcairbox.com and register today. For more information, visit our offices at the C.A. Paul Industrial Site in St. Kitts and Penny's Industrial Site in Nevis. Follow us on social media at TDC Airbox. TDC Airbox. You click, we ship. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
Welcome back to Inside the News on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devonne Cornelius. As I mentioned before, some members of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, SKNYPA, will be coming in studio today to talk about or to expound on the resolutions that were debated at the association's Youth Parliament sitting on Monday, September 13. And today's appearance on 1FM's Inside the News forms part of the association's calendar of events to celebrate its 20th anniversary, having been formed on September 13, 2021. And so the celebrations or rather the activities that are part of the calendar of events will culminate tomorrow, Sunday, with the annual general meeting. And that is where the members of the association will elect a new executive to serve for 1 year, 2021 to 2022. And that will take place tomorrow. So we're looking at the resolutions debated. We're looking at the ease of doing business. And some of the recommendations that were put forward in this resolution were to create a market where micro, small, and medium businesses are sustained and expanded through the elimination of incorporation fees and small businesses, and the establishment of low-interest loan facilities. You will recall that earlier this week, or last week rather, we entertained a discussion on a topic related to this, looking at small businesses, especially in the context of COVID-19, and how small businesses have been doing during the whole COVID situation, and a lot of young people coming up with wonderful ideas, very, very good ideas of how to start a small business. But one of the issues we saw, or maybe I should not say it's an issue, but everybody was doing the same thing, and so it was a lot of people focusing on one particular sector when doing the business. But nevertheless, we commend young people who decide to take that, let me say, leap of faith, because it's easy for us to say, start a small business, start something, do something on your own. But in terms of having that support and that capital to start that business, it is not always there. We have been joined by the youth parliamentarians from SKNYPA, and I am going to allow them to get settled in, and they will introduce themselves to you, the members of the listening public. For those of you who are just tuning in, just to remind you, we are going to talk about the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis and the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan resolutions, and we have members from the opposition and government side, and they will be weighing in on this discussion. As I said, we have entertained discussions like these in the past, and I would want you to listen, take a listen. You have any questions, you can send your questions to our WhatsApp number at 662-2204. We're also live on Facebook, where you can leave a comment, and on YouTube as well. And the numbers to call are 466-0989-762-0989. I'm going to head to the parliamentarians right now, the youth parliamentarians, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves and say just a little bit about who they are. Good morning and welcome to the studios of 1FM 98.9. Miss Harris, Patrice Harris, she is the outgoing president of SKNYPA, and she's joined by Mr. Jalen Munzak and Miss Duana Bradley, who's the Assistant General Secretary. Good morning, Miss Harris, and thank you so much for coming here to WinFM.
Good morning, Mr. Cornelius, and good morning to the listening audience of WinFM. Certainly not a stranger to the program nor the station, so I want to thank all of the persons who continue to support the Youth Parliament Association. Several years ago, we would have had radio debates right here on this radio station, Win FM, and the station would have been a great partner to the association for several years. So we thank all of the persons for their continued support. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Patrice Harris, and I am the current outgoing president of the association. It's interesting that Mr. Cornelius wants to specify that I'm outgoing, but I don't mind. I have served 2 remarkable years as the president of this great association, and I have been a member for some 13 years. So I am certainly ready to pass on the mantle to 2 of the persons who are here, 3 of the persons rather who are here, and other persons of the association who are going to take up leadership positions from tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harris, for that introduction. We're heading to Mr. Jalen Munzak, who is a member of SKNYPA. Good morning, Mr. Munzak, and thank you so much for coming to 1FM.
Good morning, Devonne. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak on these 2 timely resolutions that significantly affect our federation. So I hope that everyone that is listening, that you listen keenly and you ask questions. And I'm happy to be here.
And last but not least, we have Ms. Dwana Bradley, who is the current Assistant General Secretary of SKNYPA. Good morning, Ms. Bradley, and thank you so much for coming to 1FM.
Good morning, Devon. Thank you for having me.
Great. So, as I said, we have the youth parliamentarians here today, and we're going to head right into the discussion. So, on Monday, September 13, people in St. Kitts and Nevis were able to tune into different media platforms, social media, to listen to a debate organized by SKNYPA to speak on resolutions, the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis, and the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. I want to begin the conversation today speaking about the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis, and then we're going to finish off with the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan, perhaps in the second hour, but we're going to try to focus on the ease of doing business for the first hour. So just before you came, I was touching on some of the solutions or suggestions, rather, that were put forward in the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis resolution, and it spoke to creating a market where micro, small, and medium businesses are sustained and expanded through the elimination of incorporation fees for small businesses and the establishment of low-interest loan facilities. It continues by saying, improve the ease of establishing businesses through the reduction of associated registration and licensing fees, as well as shortening the approval time for the same. Design investment policies for improving businesses' access to finance, market information, statistics, and encouraging a positive investment climate. I think it was you, Ms. Harris, who headed the government side and who introduced this resolution at the sitting on Monday, September 13. Can I get your take on the resolution, and what do you think St. Kitts and Nevis will benefit from if something like this is implemented?
Firstly, I want to state that the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association is a non-governmental, non-partisan youth organization that aims to fight for the free involvement of young people in nation building and decision making. We ultimately serve the role as an advocacy group for young people, and one of the ways that we do so is through our flagship events known as our mock youth parliament sittings. We host these sittings twice yearly, and this year we've already had our first sitting, as Mr. Cornelius would have mentioned, on September 13th, where we debated the ease of doing business and the maritime policy. In that debate on September 13th, that Monday, I served as the Prime Minister of the Youth Parliament, the mock Youth Parliament. I really had to give that preface just to provide some context to persons, because this was a mock youth parliament sitting. It was not an actual parliament sitting.
Yes.
And so as the youth parliament prime minister, I would have moved the motion that was calling for several attributes, or several initiatives rather, to be implemented to improve our ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis. I also want to provide some further clarity and contextual information as it relates to the entire Ease of Doing Business Index. Now, the World Bank ranks economies based on the regulations and the, just as it states in the index, how easy it is to conduct business in this particular country. And this rating would have started in about 2002, where they began looking at small and medium-sized companies and the measures and regulations that are required for them to complete throughout their life cycle. Now, the index measures certain areas, which includes starting a business, dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, getting credit, paying taxes, trading across borders, enforcing contracts, and resolving insolvency. Now, through our role as the youth parliament government, or the mock youth parliament government, we would have proposed several initiatives that we felt would have been important to improve our ranking. In the last ranking in 2020, the World Bank's Doing Business ranking, St. Kitts and Nevis ranked 139 out of 190 economies as it relates to how easy it is to do business here. Perhaps, not perhaps, the index shows that we were among the lowest in the Latin America and Caribbean region, with only one country from the Caribbean scoring lower than we did. And so we felt it was important to create initiatives that would improve this ranking. I cannot engage in this conversation, or discussion rather, without providing some factual information as it relates to this debate. Shortly after we held this debate on September the 13th, we would have found out that the World Bank stopped doing the ranking. They stopped doing the index because there were several, what's the word? Not inadequacies, but several inadequacies and several...
Corruption.
Yes, there was some corruption taking place by the larger economies. I know that China for sure was being accused of some involvement in skewing the scores. So that in and of itself reduces the credibility and the validity of the index. And so while we were deciding to learn this because we put so much effort into the preparation,
right.
I still believe that as the mock prime minister, that even though the World Bank decided not to continue with the ranking, that there are still some initiatives, some measures that we can introduce locally in St. Kitts and Nevis to make it so much easier for our small and medium-term enterprises. Small and medium enterprises. What the opposition, the mock opposition, would have argued was that the resolution was not timely and that it would have lended more towards large business persons and not to the average man in terms of improving their quality of life in St. Kitts and Nevis. And to counteract such, we wanted it to be abundantly clear that when there is support for small businesses, when there is a market and an environment that supports the growth of small business, that in turn has an impact on the average man, the life of the average man. And so what is it that we were proposing in our mock parliament sitting as the mock government? We were proposing a transition from a small business development center into a business development and assessment center. So currently we know that there is an SBDC, and we wanted to have that department be expanded to tend to more of the needs of what small businesses would require. And in doing so, we had a vision that this business development and assessment center will include a technical team that can provide resources to persons who want to open small businesses, whether it is they're experts, so whether it is in the area of law or business and development, so that they can have that support that is required at the opening stages. One of the biggest proponents of this of this resolution was the incorporation of the use of information, communication, and technologies, ICT, to make doing business a lot easier and having what we refer to as a centralized government. And I am not sure how many persons are familiar with the gov.uk website or system, where any piece of information that you require about doing business in the UK, applying for visas, any information, because I studied in the UK, and I would have had to have gone on that website to find out how do I apply for my student visa, where do I need to go, what exactly I need to do. And that website is able to provide that information. We were proposing something similar for our mock parliament sitting and for our mock government, for our gov.kn, where you have a centralized website, a centralized place where persons are able to go and apply for different services and even find out information as it relates to what would be required if you were to apply for a particular certificate or visa or any sort of application that would be required. Because what we notice is that the process to get online and started as a business would require a trip to the Ministry of Finance, to Inland Revenue, and to FSRC. And we thought to ourselves, how best could this process be streamlined and so that it remains attractive and easy for someone to want to do business in St. Kitts and Nevis. We spoke about the challenges of having to go down to the post office to buy stamps, to head up to the passport office with those stamps to apply for the passport, to have those stamps as well, to head up to the police records department to get a police record, and to go up to the birth and records division at the Bastille Health Center to get a birth certificate, and how many steps it's required, physical, literal steps, to get from one place to the next to get what it is you require as official documents to get business done. And that we consider to be not in line with the modern age and the ICT platforms that we have been promoting and we recognize as so desperately needed, especially now that we're in a COVID-19 era where social distancing is important and economic recovery is important. And so I'm really just trying to provide a synopsis, Mr. Cornelius, because I know that I have several questions. We felt as though there were several steps currently that made the process too cumbersome and detracted overall from the ease of doing business. So my mock youth parliament government wanted to improve this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Harris. And thank you for providing that explanation, very useful information. I wanted to ask, as you were wrapping up, how achievable do you think it is to have some of these recommendations implemented in real life? You spoke about the establishment of a centralized website where persons can go to, get info about the process of getting the business online. And I am happy that you mentioned the process that we have to go through right now to get businesses online, where you have to be visiting all of these places physically, and
well, not to get them online, but to get them started.
Yes. And so at the end of the day, you're frustrated. You're like, oh my God, this is a long process, and I can't do this anymore. So how easy do you think it would be to get these recommendations, particularly that one, up and running?
Okay, now we acknowledged as the government in our mock youth parliament sitting that there was going to be a high, and there still continues to be a high level of hesitancy towards digitization of certain services, particularly because we are so accustomed to doing things a particular way that as much as we might complain about how difficult it is to have to physically walk from post office to passport office to the police station to the Bastia Health Center, that even with provisions made to get some of these services online, as we have seen already, that there is a heightened level of hesitancy by persons to use them. Inland Revenue already has some of their services online. We see a lot of companies. We know National Bank has a cashless SKN program. We know that the ECCB has their DCash, their digital cash program. We see companies like the Cable, Digital, Flow, Skellig, all of these companies having online platforms available for persons to be able to manage their accounts and pay their bills. And we still see, I know we see, what National Bank looks like on a Friday. you see what Inland Revenue looks like on that day before you have to renew the last day of the month, the literal last day of the month. We see where the lines, how long they are, how they bend, how they curve, and how people just stand there patiently waiting to get these services done. So we recognize that there will be some challenges, as they are already, to get persons to move away from their traditional methods of conducting business and of engaging with business places to utilize digital platforms. As much as we call for ICT development, and ICT development is more than getting businesses online and getting services online. It is also about creating the infrastructure that allows for us to be online efficiently. We're looking at internet speeds. We're looking at the access to reliable electricity, supply of electricity. We're looking at what does it mean for several competing telecommunications companies to operate within one small space. We witness the challenges of, me personally, how difficult it is sometimes to call someone on a digital phone when you have a flow number. And that is why I say it is so beyond getting a platform online for people to use, but there is the infrastructure that needs to be created. There is a culture that needs to be harnessed to get persons to recognize that digitization is important and it is safe. We know the challenges that cybersecurity threats pose to persons doing business online. People might think that it's not safe, and because we know of many persons who have been hacked or who would have had their information misused online or improperly or without their consent, and that creates a challenge as well, where we have some level of hesitancy towards the improvement and the creation of the environment for ICT development. And so we recognize that will be a challenge, that will not be something that happens overnight, and there's several factors involved in getting that done. So I know that is the one that might seem the easiest, but there's also a lot of infrastructural work that needs to be done there.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. It's 11:33. We'll take this short break to say thank you to our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to hear from Ms. Duana Bradley. I think you acted as the Deputy Prime Minister, and you provided support to Ms. Harris in her presentation. So we'll take this short break to say thank you to the sponsors, and when we come back, we're heading to you, Ms. Bradley. Let's take this break, and we will be right back.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devonne Cornelius, and we're joined with the members of the Sincus National Youth Parliament Association, SKNYPA, and we are having a conversation on the resolutions that were debated at the association's mock parliament sitting on Monday, September 13, 2021. We have in studio the current outgoing president, Patrice Harris, General Secretary Duana Bradley, and General Member Mr. Jalen Munzak. We're now going to hear from Mr. Munzak, who actually was the person to provide support to Ms. Harris in the presentation on the resolution of ease of doing business. Mr. Munzak, so as I mentioned, you were the person who seconded the resolution and provided support to Ms. Harris in her presentation on the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis. Perhaps my question would be similar to what I posed to Ms. Harris. But as you made your presentation on this topic, what do you think St. Kitts and Nevis will benefit from if something like this is implemented? I know Ms. Harris spoke about some of the the inadequacies that we saw coming from the World Bank report, where they're basically pulling back the report because of allegations made of corruption and all of that. So what do you think St. Kitts and Nevis will benefit from if something like this is implemented, and how do you think it will negatively affect us going forward with the revelation we saw happening? I think it was sometime last week. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Devon. I had the pleasure of seconding this motion to have a better ease of doing business in our country and to improve our ease of doing business ranking. And as Patrice would have mentioned about the inadequacies of the World Bank report and them looking to discontinue it, I think that we still can benefit from it because there are several areas. Where Patrice spoke about the building center, as the business center, there's access to finance, there is electrical supply, the labor laws, all kind of different things. So I think that we should be able to still take some pieces from out of it. There's some advantage to it that, it helps us to improve our processes and to have entrepreneurship and businesses starting without any difficulties. I would have spoke about improving access to finance. We feel that that's one of the most important things. We feel that, yes, there are loans in St. Kitts and banks give out loans and all kind of attractive loans, but we feel that the common person, they cannot go out to a bank and get a business loan. There's so much processes, red tape, and we feel that we wanted to change that. We wanted to have something where a common person like me, a young person who may not have collateral, who may not have a signature for this loan, we wanted to create some sort of aspect to help with that. And one thing we realized was the access to credit. We realized that persons, there isn't a framework for persons to access credit. We saw that there was a harmonized credit reporting bill and regulations passed in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and St. Kitts would have adopted this. But a part of that legislation was the creation of a reporting bureau, a credit reporting bureau. And we feel that one of the concerns from banks in terms of young people and the common person who may not have collateral is that there isn't anything that they can go back on. So it's like a risky loan for them. So we thought, okay, so there isn't any centralized reporting agency to report on your credit, meaning as if how safe are you as a person taking a loan from a bank? How safe are you? The banks want to know that. I mean, but loans are risky. But we wanted we saw that banks, they needed I don't know what you call it, they needed a second assurance. Right? A second assurance,
like
a guarantor, right? And as I say, like, we're young, we may not be able to know much people who want to sign off on these kind of loans for us. We don't have collateral. So we saw that, okay, let us look at the reporting bill here, and they said that they were going to create a credit reporting bureau, and we feel that that bureau would help to really be a backup for me as a young person going down to the bank. They can go into a system. It's a centralized system. They go into the system, and the bank assess what is the credit history. Have you taken any debts? What is it? And it will be based on a score. It's like something like, in the United States where they got Credit Karma and those kind of things, and they use those scores to determine if you will get a loan. I think that helps in terms of getting loans for young people. So we wanted to really focus on that aspect and as well. Another thing I spoke about would have been the reliability and sustained electrical supply. Before I go into it, I'm not saying that our nation's providing of electricity, that they are not doing a good job. They're doing an amazing job. I mean, right now, we are right here in the station and we have lights, so we have minimal blackouts and all of that. So I really want to commend the SKNYPA for the good job that they are doing and that they continue to do. But we feel that in order for our business environment to expand, there needs to be an increase in capacity in terms of technical side and as well as in terms of the capacity of the entire the electrical grid, right? The government would have implemented or went into a agreement with an energy company to have a solar farm, one of the largest actually the largest in the Caribbean, which I can't wait to see. And we wanted to lend ourselves to the conversation by saying that we just don't want a solar power plant here, and there isn't anything for businesses. We wanted to allow businesses to have the opportunity to be self-reliant as well. We wanted that aspect. It's commendable that the government is doing this, but we wanted to have businesses have the opportunity to have solar power plants and those kind of things. Renewable energy, I mean, it's a very costly expense. We understand that, and that is what we would have spoken about, introducing what's it called? Tax breaks on renewable energy products. That's the word. And that would reduce the duty costs, the import costs on importing these things. So we really wanted to encourage businesses to do that, to have self-reliant electrical supply, so we don't have to put a strain on the resources that we have here. Another thing I would have spoken about is the creation of other commercial areas. Currently, the main commercial areas are Bastia and Charlestown and Nevis. And yes, they are towns, but we felt that we wanted to, especially in this COVID-19, where we're trying to do physical distancing, we wanted to create other areas, like we mentioned, places in Kenyon and Molyneux, which allows more businesses to flourish, so they don't have to worry about, okay, the high rent in Posante or the high rent in town. They're able to go from, they don't have to say, okay, I want to start a business, but there's no land in Bastia, where you can always go across Kenyon and set up a business, whatever that might be. We really want to see the country expand in terms of not just focusing on one central area, but being able to expand. I go to the country sometimes and I see a Chinese restaurant in Sandy Point, and I see one in Old Road, and I'm like, really? I didn't know that they have these things all the way down, all the way out of town, and I think that's good, and we need to follow those kind of things that we don't want to just stay in one area. We want to branch out. And with respect to the disadvantage of us adopting this World Bank groups of ease of doing business, I don't think that really there is a disadvantage. I mean, it comes off as a one-size-fits-all kind of mechanism, but I feel that it helps us in the long run to be a big player on the international market in terms of people coming here. We have the CBI program, so it really just provides a lot of advantage to us. I mean, I really wish that, there's always room for improvement, but I feel that we following this, or even just following some of the guidelines, it helps us in the long run.
Janet, I'm happy that you spoke about access to finance for persons who are interested in starting a small business. It was just yesterday we were talking about something along this line in terms of youth employment and young people going to start businesses. You're coming back from university and you can't get a job or a government job. Perhaps you want to start a business and do something for yourself. And we, spoke about the access to finance and how difficult it is to get a loan to start a business, because sometimes you would present a business plan and it is not as solid as the loan officer would want it to be, and so they would turn you down. And so I'm happy that SKNYPA came up with this suggestion to put forward, where young people in particular, people who are interested in starting a business, a small business, can do to get the business up and running. As I'm going through the recommendations here in the resolution, it says capacity building of the government and other stakeholders, which focuses on analysis, design, implementation, and monitoring of businesses. Can someone, either you or Patrice, break this down just a little bit?
Okay, one of the points that came out of the debate on September 13th is that in St. Kitts and Nevis we have a bit of a data deficit, meaning that we oftentimes, as a layman, encounter difficulties to be able to ascertain data about particular areas that should be captured by the government. We're not saying that the data does not exist, but we're saying that it is extremely challenging sometimes to be able to get the data. And a counter argument would be, well then, how then are we able to be scored or ranked on an international index if data does not exist? So somewhere along the lines the data does exist, but we believe that there is greater room to improve the accessibility of that data, the collection of that data, the analysis of that data, so that it will also assist in areas of when persons are looking to make investments here, there are certain factors that they will take on the advisement into consideration to determine whether or not it's going to be feasible, worthwhile. Data is it is a bit of the newest commodity there is. And so you'll be surprised what you can do or what kind of decisions that can be made with knowing that 50 people buy a number one KFC within an hour. It suggests to you what our eating patterns are, what our diets are, what we choose to eat, why we choose to eat it. There's different factors that might influence that. And so we felt as though incorporating this aspect as it relates to analysis and design and implementation and monitoring of businesses and their performances, because we oftentimes hear about how many businesses are opened and registered on an annual basis. The numbers continue to increase. But what then happens after that? Is it that the businesses remain sustained? Are they operational? Did they become bankrupt? Are their doors still open? How many persons are they able to hire? Were they indebted? Were they able to expand their portfolio to offer new products and services? Are they engaging in any sort of like manufacturing and exports? And so we felt that it was important to ensure that the monitoring and the analysis of these businesses is done so that we can continue to see how much they truly contribute to economic growth.
Ms. Harris, I hope the relevant authorities are listening, because during the budget presentation each year, you would normally hear about the number of businesses that have been registered for the year. And so perhaps you may hear that for 2019 we had, let's say, 100 businesses registering. But what happens to these businesses after? So they register, they come on board, they perhaps start with a small staff, and then you never hear about just themselves. Mm-hmm. And you never hear about these businesses again. And so those questions that you put forward, very, very good questions. It's 11:53. We are heading to the 12 o'clock hour, and we're going to break at 12 for the headline news, and we're coming back right after, perhaps around 12:15, because it's going to be a short headline news, and we're going to continue this conversation. Then we're going to hear from Ms. Bradley, who spoke on the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. As we begin to wrap up, I wanted to touch quickly on another recommendation that was put forward in the resolution that stood out, and I think Ms. Harris spoke on it earlier. But if we may go back, it says incorporating the use of information, communication, and technologies, ICTs, within the economy, including e-bill payments, online registries, increased credit card use, and services such as mobile banking, thereby improving e-commerce. Now, for me, I would say it's 50-50, because I like mobile banking. But for my vaccination card, I prefer to have it in my hand. Mm-hmm. I know there is access where you can go and get it, get a soft copy. But 50-50, because sometimes you just don't feel, I don't know what it is, but I prefer to go to the bank.
You need not to prefer to go to the bank, Mr. Cornelius. It's the people like you that tie up the banks. For the people who have genuine reasons to go to the bank.
To go to the bank, right. So it's a 50-50 for a lot of people. So even though you mentioned earlier that, there are a lot of businesses that they do have online platforms where you can pay your bills, where you can do business from the comfort of your homes, people still believe that they should form a long line still in the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's crazy, and I guess I'm guilty of it, but
shame.
I'll try to work on that. But I believe there is a cost that comes with all of these online platforms. I could be wrong. Stand to be corrected. But I believe there's a cost that comes with having these online platforms where you take credit cards and debit cards and these.
Of course, there is a cost.
So, what happens to these small businesses when they get all of these amenities, all of these online platforms, and people like me still go and line up? What happens there?
Well, it's not what happens, but one of the things that we need to recognize is that people at university, we learned about ethical consumption. And I'm not sure what would be the way to describe this type of consumption that I'm going to speak about next. But people make a decision where they want to consume, what they want to consume based on several factors. A more modern person who might be middle class, or even persons who are in the upper lower class, who are moving towards middle class, they might be the owner of a vehicle and they drive a vehicle. And when it's time on 12 o'clock on a Friday to get lunch, one of the major factors that they are going to be using to determine where to purchase lunch is how accessible this place is, in terms of where I'm going to park, how easy it is to get in and out, how many traffic lights am I going to have to pass, what type of traffic am I going to evade to be able to consume at this place. Similarly, with so many persons having access to debit cards and the other portals to be able to make payments, we have a growing cashless society, which means that fewer persons walk around with cash on their person. And whether or not a business place accepts EBT payments or point of sale payments is also a factor that a consumer takes into consideration before purchasing an item from that place. So I might say, well, I want Domino's today because I know I can swipe my card at Domino's, I know I can get in and out easily. Or I might say today, well, I really feel like a plate to cook up, but I only got $15 cash to go down the road, and then I go across by the bank. People like Devonne, they're lining up, and it takes me a bit of a while to get into the ATM to get my $20. And so we have to recognize, as I spoke about the data earlier, the importance of the data, that people are using different types of factors to determine whether or not they want to consume particular items and why they want to consume from particular places. We hear people say, I am not supporting this particular business because they don't have a high level of corporate social responsibility. They don't donate to the communities, they don't give back, they don't hire locals. And so people, in a sense, are engaging in their own form of ethical consumption. So I would say that it is a worthwhile investment. The cost might be minimal, and the more platforms that you have, the more money that you're going to have to pay to invest in them. Obviously, you're going to have to invest in some sort of security, etc. If you do have online platforms, if you have point of sale machines, obviously you're going to have to pay the percentage on each transaction. There is a cost, everything comes with a cost, but I think it's best described in finance and economics, and Jalen might assist me here, as an opportunity cost.
Sure.
Okay, so he confirmed.
Go ahead,
an
quickly.
Opportunity cost.
Yes.
Okay, so, opportunity cost, let me just put it out there in simple terms. It's when you make a choice, there are other choices that you could have made, so it's the opportunity that is foregone now. Mm-hmm. So, in life, there is advantages, disadvantages. So if you choose to go and you want to go for lunch, let's use the example of going for lunch, you have let's say you have the choice, like 2 days prior, of going to a national bank and establishing a mobile banking app, getting the debit card. You have the debit card already, but you decide, I'm not going to get that. No, you want to go to Reefers. Reefers has a debit card machine. Cool. You're coming from work all the way in Frigate Bay, and it's 12 o'clock. Everybody else is going down into town for whatever reason. So now you have 30 minutes for lunch. You're leaving all the way from Frigate Bay. You come in, you meet a whole long line of cars. Going from there, you're late for work. But imagine if you just signed up for the mobile banking, you could have gotten your thing through 869 to go, or to even send it directly to reefers. And the other, so the opportunity, you had the opportunity to be early for work, you don't have to leave work. But no, you gone from that and you're risking losing your job. So, you lost an opportunity. So I think that the technology, the credit card systems, point of sales, they're important. And yes, there will be a cost to businesses too. There will be a cost for uptaking cards. These are also businesses as well. But you want to maximize all kind of different types of customers. Not everybody is a person that deals with technology. Some people want to carry cash. And as a business, you want to be able to maximize that opportunity, right? So I don't want to be, I have mobile banking, I have debit card. I don't want to go to a restaurant and I'm there and you tell me that, I can't accept payment because I don't have a card machine. So I look at there, you lost a whole customer right there. I'm not going to come back there. So we really need to embrace government, businesses, on an individual level. We really need to embrace this cashless society. Yes, there are costs towards it. Yes, there are costs to swiping. But at the end of the day, it's convenience. It is convenient.
I think it's more on an individual level.
I wanted to just clarify a bit, not clarify, but simplify. Really and truly, when we speak about opportunity cost, we're speaking about the cost of gaining an opportunity and the cost of losing an opportunity. So this is what it will cost you to be able to get more customers coming through your door, but this is what you're going to lose if you don't have this particular technology. People are not going to come to the door. So the cost of gaining and the cost of losing.
Right.
I think that's what it is.
It is 3 minutes past the hour of 12. We take this break for the headline news, and we will be back in just about 15 minutes. So you can have a water break and do something else. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to WinFM 98.9. This has been the first hour of Inside the News with SKNYPA, expounding upon the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis and the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan resolutions that were debated at the association's mock youth parliament sitting on Monday, September 13. We'll take this short break and we will be right back.
You found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Cariboury.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the WIN Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I'm Devonne Cornelius.
Making the headlines:
unknown assailants rob popular restaurant in Nevis. Earthquake recorded near Antigua and Barbuda.
Hurricane Sam, a major hurricane expected to strengthen. Bahamian Prime Minister Philip Davis, before leading a delegation to the United Nations, fielded questions about the country's financial situation. Eyewitness News has that report. Britain is expected to announce plans to issue temporary work visas to foreign truck drivers to ease an acute labor shortage that has led to fuel rationing at hundreds of gas stations and long queues to fill up. Now, the details.
A popular Indian restaurant in Nevis was robbed late Friday night by armed assailants. Witnesses say there were two assailants, one brandishing a cutlass and the other with a firearm. The armed robbers made off with an undisclosed amount of cash after threatening one of the restaurant's employees. There were no reports of injury to staff or customers. Efforts to contact the police were unsuccessful at the time of writing. More on this developing story. A magnitude 5.3 earthquake struck near Antigua and Barbuda Friday night, but there were no reports of injuries or damage. The UE Seismic Research Center said the event occurred at 11:12 p.m. local time at latitude 16.86 north, longitude 61.14 west, and at a depth of 10 kilometers. The earthquake was also reportedly felt at 81 kilometers northeast of Guadeloupe, 83 kilometers southeast of Antigua and Barbuda, and 175 kilometers north of Dominica. People in St. Kitts and Nevis took to social media reporting that they felt the earthquake and that there were tremors from as early as 8 p.m.
Hurricane Sam is now a major hurricane and the strongest hurricane of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. Sam is forecast to become a Category 4 hurricane by Sunday, September 26th. At 11 a.m. Saturday, September 25th, the center of Hurricane Sam, located over the tropical Atlantic Ocean, was about 1,095 miles east-southeast of the northern Leeward Islands and is moving towards the west-northwest near 10 miles per hour. A slower motion to the west-northwest is expected to occur during the weekend, followed by a turn to the northwest on Monday, said the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association's National Hurricane Center. Maximum sustained winds have increased to near 120 miles per hour, with higher gusts Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 105 miles. A tropical cyclone alert remains for the Leeward Islands and the British Virgin Islands. Watches and warnings are not required at this time, but may be necessary in the next 72 hours, according to the St. Kitts Met Service. Hurricane Sam is projected to move sufficiently north of the island chain to spare the island's tropical cyclone wind impacts. As a result, the system poses a very low threat at this time. However, shifts in the forecast track are possible, which could bring the system closer to the area, resulting in an increased threat of tropical cyclone impacts to the islands. For this reason, residents in the Leewards and the British Virgin Islands are urged to continue to monitor the progress of this potentially dangerous system. In regional news,
Prime Minister Philip Davis leaving the country today for his first presentation on the international stage as Prime Minister. Davis will lead a delegation participating in the 76th session of the United Nations. Including in that group are the Foreign Affairs and Public Service Minister, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Honorable Miles Larota, and officials of the Office of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Now, before leaving for New York today, the Prime Minister was sworn in as the Minister of Finance. While in opposition, several government ministers had donated their Member of Parliament salaries in light of the hardships facing Bahamians and the burden of the value-added tax. Well, the Prime Minister said at this time that won't be considered, noting that government is, however, committed to rebounding the economy to fulfill that campaign promise.
That is not a consideration at this time, but we have to look to see where we are, respect our finances, and our ultimate goal is to bring relief to the vulnerables and young amongst our people. That's our. When can we see? My first order of business is to stabilize our finances and to bring some relief and identify how we can get a debt management strategy implemented as quickly as possible, and that is my immediate goal.
Well, Prime Minister Davis was also asked by reporters today for a timeline on when government will be able to reduce the value-added tax.
Well, I think that requires parliamentary intervention. We don't start Parliament until the 6th of October. That's when it opens, and then we'll decide during that session when we'll do it.
Okay, great.
But we're hoping to be able to do that. As you would have seen, my Minister of Health, Mr. Dowell, has shuttled the gate, and he's been visiting all the hospitals. I got a brief report of him last night about the dismal state of our healthcare system, and we are now trying to craft the strategy to implement the promises that we.
We now bring you these international reports.
Britain is expected to announce plans to issue temporary visas to foreign truck drivers to resolve an acute shortage that has led to fuel rationing at gas stations and retailers warning of shortages over Christmas. Ministers are urging against panic buying, and oil companies say there's no shortage, just delivery problems. But long lines have formed at gas stations and some outlets have closed. Though temporary, issuing the foreign visas was a shift for a government that brought in a strict new immigration regime after leaving the European Union, which is why Boris Johnson's Downing Street office emphasised on Saturday that the step was strictly time-limited. Behind the shortfall are Brexit's restrictions on foreign workers and the health crisis, which halted driver training and testing. Newspapers reported the scheme would let in up to 5,000 drivers, far short of the 100,000 the UK's Road Haulage Association says are needed to meet demand. The fuel issue comes as Britain, the world's fifth largest economy, also grapples with a spike in European natural gas prices, causing soaring energy costs and a potential food supply crunch. Britain says the long-term solution is for more British drivers to be hired, with the Haulage Association saying better pay and conditions are needed to attract recruits. But the retail industry has warned that unless the government acts to address the shortage in the next 10 days, then significant disruption is inevitable in the run-up to Christmas. Other countries, such as the United States and Germany, are also dealing with truck driver shortages.
Above the picturesque coastal village of Tazacorte is what seems like a looming storm, but is in reality a giant cloud of volcanic ash. The crater has expanded. Tazacorte has not yet been evacuated. The village's mayor, Juan Acosta, is not just concerned but deeply worried. The lava is moving 4 meters per hour and it's less than 2 kilometers away from the village.
I'm concerned this may affect our banana plantations. This is the principal economic activity of people here, so it would mean big losses for so many families.
500 hectares of banana plantation have been irreversibly destroyed by a thick blanket of ash. Microscopic volcano rocks are seeping into the crop, making them inedible. A massive loss, sighs Martin, to an island that gets much of its revenue from banana production. Last year, a devastating fire destroyed the crop, followed by a long spell of drought, and now this.
I'm so upset. It's a disgrace what we're going through. Here we live off and by the banana plantations. If we can't work, we're about to lose everything. It's another tragedy.
A royal visit from Spain's king to boost the small and remote island's morale. Thousands of people are displaced, their homes and belongings turned to ash.
Experts don't know if this is going to last for weeks or for months. And so people on this island are learning to live in this new environment, surrounded by fire and lava in what they describe as an unpredictable and intense climate.
Volcanologists had long predicted this eruption but failed to anticipate its magnitude. They're now studying the site for clues for what may happen next. It has left them with more questions than answers.
You have a person that may have a good character, right? So we are dealing with in a Strombolian eruption. The dynamic of the gassing of the volcano when it's erupting is going to make this kind of different phases much more explosive. But it's common to see this kind of changing character or moody character.
What is this volcano trying to say? Wonders Mayor Juan Acosta, who fails to see its beauty. He feels powerless in the face of this force of nature as the future of his village hangs in the balance. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, La Palma.
You were listening to the WinFM headline news on 98.9. Our top stories were:
unknown assailants rob popular restaurant in Nevis. Earthquake recorded near Antigua and Barbuda.
Hurricane Sam, a major hurricane expected to strengthen. Bahamian Prime Minister Philip Davis, before leading a delegation to the United Nations, fielded questions about the country's financial situation. Eyewitness News has that report. Britain is expected to announce plans to issue temporary work visas to foreign truck drivers to ease an acute labor shortage that has led to fuel rationing at hundreds of gas stations and long queues to fill up. Thank you for listening.
That was the 1FM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribou.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king. Please drink responsibly.
Found the sound 98.9. Win FFM.
People make the world go Insurance Company Limited. We care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind.
CDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on 1FM 98.9. It's 27 minutes past the hour of 12. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those of you who just joined, we're here with the Sinkers National Youth Parliament Association, SKNYPA, and we are having a conversation on the resolutions, ease of doing business in Sinkers and Nevis, and the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. We have in studio the current outgoing president, Ms. Patrice Harris, and we're joined with Duana Bradley and Jalen Munzak. Good afternoon, guys, and welcome back to the second hour of Inside the News on 1FM 98.9. I forgot to mention that I am a member of SKNYPA, so I'm hosting as a member of SKNYPA and not as a journalist here at 1FM. So we have 4 SKNYPArians here today, and we are having a discussion on these resolutions. So we're going to continue the conversation. Patrice and Jillian touched on the ease of doing business resolution, and we want to continue on that, and then later on we're going to touch on the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. Duana was the person that you tabled that resolution. So we're going to hear more from Duana on that resolution. I'm looking at the suggestions that were put forward in the resolution for the ease of doing business. And G says improve the nation's policy and regulatory frameworks for doing business or for businesses within the Federation through the reformation of the labor laws and the enhancement of debt collection in times of business insolvency and bankruptcy. This one seems a bit challenging. Right?
Yes, this was perhaps one of the most difficult suggestions in the resolution, and it's because it was so deeply grounded in the enhancement of the legal framework. And I do recall that in the ease of doing business, the last ease of doing business report in 2020, that there were no cases cited. So I don't think that there was any data to be used, or any occurrences, rather not data but occurrences, to be able to guide that particular component of the ranking. But what I would say is that we do recognize the need for the labor laws, the reform of the labor laws, outside of the ease of doing business, because what COVID-19 has done for us is placed us in a position where we have to rethink so many components of doing work, going to work, doing business. We've seen the SRNOs constantly make mention of the ability to work from home, but there really isn't any sufficient legal framework out of that governs that working from home. And we know that there are still some traditional ways of doing things, especially as it relates to employment and businesses, that makes it a bit more challenges, because we saw with COVID-19, when persons became positive and the businesses having to close down, and now we're seeing what would happen, what is currently happening with mandates for vaccinations and legislative framework not being there to support that, but just interpretations of what will be in the best interest of public health. And so we definitely recognize the need and would really love to be a part of those conversations that the government is having and will continue to have as it relates to improving and reforming our labor laws, the legislative framework behind that, recognizing that they're the rights of the employer, the rights of the employee, that have to be protected, and we have to find a balance and to be very fair in doing so. So that would be my contribution towards that portion of the resolution.
I'm happy that you mentioned the SRO, where it spoke to people being allowed to work from home. While that is there and you can do it, the reality is that wasn't necessarily the case, or it wasn't easy for people to work from home because the access to technology, some people did not have that access, and so you're being asked to work from home, but you're not being provided with the necessary equipment and all of that to work from home.
And that ties back to where we started the conversation earlier about ICT development framework, infrastructural framework and development, because you might find that because you live in a particular area that your connection speeds and your connection is not as strong as some other areas. Right. And you now have to speak about added levels of security, because people are now working from home and have to access their work desktops through third-party software. So some companies might be using different softwares, VPN, to get you to log into your computer, and that now creates an added level layer of a security threat. So there are so many, especially if you're talking about children and parents working from home simultaneously. Right. You have a kindergartner who is on a tablet, trying to tap into whatever instructions there is, and you have to get the work done of your company, and that creates an added level.
But not only that, though, sometimes you have the parents and the child using the same device.
Yes.
And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And especially if I'm talking about a kindergartner, but let's say it was a child at a daycare. The difficulty to get a child at daycare to calm down so that mommy can answer all of these calls, and mommy can do all of these things. Every child want a box string, you want to go back rooms, all these things. I mean, we kind of strain a bit, but it's so important to speak about what the reality of some of these situations are. And now you, as a parent, your child contracts COVID-19 and child can't stay home in quarantine for 14 days alone. So it means that you have to be away from work for 14 to up to 18 days because of testing and the two tests that you have to get done what type of provisions are there as a protection for a company, as a protection for an employer. It's just so much. I empathize with any leader in this point, in this era of history globally, because there's so many nuances to the COVID-19 conversation that we have to recognize it's far beyond what meets the eye.
You know, as we prepare to open the phone lines to take some calls, I realize with the suggestions that were put forward, for lack of a better term, they're COVID friendly. So you have, providing access to ICTs, and that is what we're really trying to do now. So some businesses that were trying to do that 2 years ago, now in the context of COVID-19, they're seeing the importance, and it is now becoming a number one priority. I have to get my business online because people can't come and line up and gather and stay in a crowd anymore because of the pandemic and the restrictions that have been imposed. And so most of the suggestions that have been put forward in this resolution is COVID friendly, where you can continue the business in the context of COVID. But we realize that this is not just a health crisis, but a financial crisis. And so
There so many crises wrapped up in one, because one of the areas that I am paying so close attention to as it relates to COVID-19 is the social component.
Right.
Meaning you have to engage in so many layers of isolation and distancing, and even being a patient or a positive COVID-19 case, you still have to have a phone to get your call from your health manager or whatever it is. You have to have somebody who is able to get you a meal, to provide you with the groceries, or you have to have a household that might be conducive to you being, a safe space or a safe harbor. And if not, you then go into a government facility where you're going to be there for about 2 weeks and some days and support with the testing. So there is such a great social component, because the COVID-19 regulations practices require isolation, and we're naturally people that like to be between each other. We like going a bus alone, and we like going a fete, and we like being together. So to not be together, the type of impact that has mentally, especially on our young people, is definitely underrepresented.
Patrice, we're going to open the phone lines and we're going to begin.
We got some nice callers today. I am declaring that our callers are going to be supportive, and where we may have fell short in any of our extrapolations, that they will provide that requisite support. So I'm declaring that.
Yes. The number is to call 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. You can also send us a comment via WhatsApp at 662-2204. This is 1FM 98.9, and you're listening to Inside the News with SKNYPA. So as we have no callers at the moment, we're continuing this conversation. And as I mentioned before, yes, these suggestions that have been put forward are COVID-friendly, and it really encourages businesses to move forward and to expand and to grow. As we are waiting for the callers, we're going to head into the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. This resolution was tabled by Donna Bradley, who I think you acted as the Deputy Prime Minister. Yeah. Right, as the Deputy Prime Minister, and we're going to look at that resolution. Last Saturday, Dr. Joel Clark and Mrs. Tricia King, they were here giving their feedback on the resolution that was debated. Very good feedback. And of course, Mrs. King is a marine biologist, and Dr. Clark is in environment and geology and all of that. And so they provided their feedback, which was really good, and what they think St. Kitts and Nevis can benefit from if these policies are protected. Now, we're looking at B, promoting long-term sustainable development through improved food security job security, increased trade, and improved bolstered economic activity through proper fisheries management, reliable yet eco-friendly marine transportation, and best practices with respect to marine tourism. I love this one because in COVID, I remember seeing on Facebook a story from a news agency where in a particular Caribbean country where, well, of course, Caribbean islands were heavily dependent on tourism. But in that specific country, the headline was along the line of this COVID, this Caribbean country, which is dependent on tourism, and now that tourism is basically out of the door, and the tourists are not coming, we're not getting that economic activity through tourism. Many of the residents, they've turned to fishing, and so they're now providing for their families through fishing and related activities. And we're talking about promoting long-term sustainable development through improved food security. We'd often hear the politicians talk about exploring the blue and green economy and what they want to do to make sure that this is a sector that we can go into in the event tourism is not there to help us. Devonne, can I get your thoughts on how St. Kitts and Nevis will benefit from more people getting involved in fishing, and what positive impact do you think this would have on the economy?
Well, thank you, Devonne. The blue economy isn't something that is widely talked about. So we thought that it would be good for us to bring awareness to it, seeing as we are a small nation surrounded by water. It would be hard to ignore the fact that water is there, and we have to make the best of what we have. So in this resolution, we seek to bring awareness to the fact that we are a small developing nation, and we are also a large oceanic state. So
it was extremely important for us to have this debate on the blue economy because, as you would have mentioned earlier, Devonne, there is a heightened interest in fishing and our marine space. And I'm not even 100% sure if it's a heightened interest, but I just think that during COVID, people just started paying attention to more things that weren't there before. Because, seeing a lot of people interested in, I'm going to get the yam, I'm going in the market and all of these things. So the conversation about how best are we using our marine resources and what it is that we can do, and recognizing that we are a large oceanic space and we are a land space. And how best can we harness this? Because SKNYPA would have had a debate last year, one of our debates last year, surrounded the need for economic diversification during a COVID-19 era. And for some reason, Caribbean countries tend to continually oscillate between one crop. We still continue to be like a monoculture. So if it's not sugar, it's tourism, and now we're seeing some branching off into severe investments and so forth, and financial services, and there's tourism. But that one is one that could be a staple because there isn't much external or internal factors that could divert that. Okay, so that is relatively a good area to develop in, but where it is now that from sugar to tourism, and tourism being extremely volatile, COVID-19 having this type of impact on tourism, now we're looking at, hey, the blue economy, eyes wide open. You see dollar signs in people's eyes because we're recognizing that, hey, we have the ability to fish, and we have the ability to use our marine space in a way that it can provide financial benefits for a country. I know that Joanna moved the resolution, and she wants about some of her favorite points that she wants to speak about. So she can tell us about perhaps even the educational components that we were lobbying for through the resolution.
Go ahead.
Yes, in preparing for this debate and doing research on this topic, it was very difficult to find information about fishing villages in St. Kitts and Nevis. So one of the points that we wanted to bring across was the need to document this information, better document this information, because it was so hard to find information to make, to make the point come alive.
Right.
So some of the points that we thought could help with the education aspect of the fishing villages was to have a section in the National Museum where fishing villages will be documented, the history could be documented for young people to learn about them.
Right. I think that's really good because particularly on Nevis, we have in the Newcastle area, which is perhaps a fishing village. A lot of people fish there. But in terms of educating the younger people about the history of that area and getting more young people involved in it, we're seeing now where even in marine and environment and fishing, as you're talking about the fishing, young people like us, we ain't interested. You know, we like to have these conversations, but in terms of really getting ourselves involved and or changing our the way we do things to really, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, so I know we have a situation where the ocean is heavily polluted, right? And we would have beach cleanups, all of these activities to ensure that the marine environment is protected, and we're doing our part to make sure that these things are kept clean. But we would go to Best Buy and we would spend $300 and we buy all this plastic. And instead of I remember a few years ago they had this initiative where you were supposed to bring, what do you call those bags again? Those green friendly, eco-friendly bags, you know? And so people were like, man, bringing them stupid bags there. Everybody wanted the plastic bags. And so, yes, we're going to go to the store, we're going to spend all this money on getting these plastic bags, and what we do with them, we throw them away. And we go back to the same beach to clean
religiously.
It's crazy. So, you know, what I want to get from you, Devonne, is, you know, how do you think we can get our young people to have a better appreciation for the marine environment, and, you know, some of the things we can do to better protect it?
Well, Devon, I think it all comes back down to education, educating the population, educating the young people on why the marine environment is so important, because a lot of what we eat, fish, lobster, they come from it. So it would all come back down to education, awareness in schools especially, more programs from places like solid waste for reusable material.
Right.
Yes.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yes.
And you don't throw them in the ocean and those kind of things.
Right.
Yes.
And I also think that I think there's this program that the Department of Environment does, where they, I think it's litter officers or something like that, where they train persons to be litter officers so that they can, what's the word, so that they can monitor the litter activities in St. Kitts.
Enforcement.
So, yeah, so maybe, you know, what they can do, I don't know if they're doing it, but, you know, is to involve, you know, younger persons into something along that line of, like, littering beaches, and that they can patrol these beaches. And also, you know, create, like, a program where you involve young people in training in terms of, like, understanding the, what do you call the space?
The oceanic space.
The oceanic space, yeah, in terms of maintaining it, and, like, let's say, create a camp or something like that, so that, like a 6-week camp.
I think the department already has a Reef Guardian program that does get some interest. I think they've had it about twice already, or maybe twice for the year. I do know some persons who have done that. And, you know, when I went out to university at UVI, they have an exceptional marine biology program. Tricia did that program. And they always have this joke about majority of the persons who were doing that program, they were stateside-ers. And we are the ones who live and see and breathe this seawater, we're going there and all these things, but we don't really have that heightened interest in persons wanting to study and understand what the importance that space serves for St. Kitts and Nevis. And we think about the water more leisurely than we think about, and recreationally, than we think about it financially, or than we think about it as a key pillar towards economic sustenance. And so you'll find that even with some of the challenges, because one of the conversations that came out of the debate was about resiliency and the appropriate uses of our coastal areas. So, you know, it's all fun and games, and we go and we, you know, the jet skis. Yeah, you know, we go with the jet ski and so forth, and, you know, we go diving, and we want to break off a piece of the coral, like, oh, nice, cute little shell, and want a souvenir, but this is more disastrous to us than we think it is, and especially being so reliant on cruise ships and the tourism industry. There's so many components there, because they too are, the tourists too are looking at it from a leisurely perspective, recreational perspective, and we think about the ships that berth here, and we think about the fact that, you know, they have to offload their garbage, and what type of damage that can cause to our coral reefs, and what type of damage it can cause for the type of, there's a particular type of water that I think that they let off when they come here. You don't know where that water came from, and that might include some sort of invasive species and so forth. Can't remember the name of the term, but I've learned it a long time ago. So we do have to be way more protective of our marine environment and recognize that it is so much more than what meets the eye. There are several, we learned from our training, Mrs. King did come and speak to SKNYPA as well, that there are several career opportunities involved in that industry, especially as we are looking to have a much more thriving yacht industry. There are so many careers involved in that. I don't know if persons have recognized how over the years this type of business of boats back and forth between St. Kitts and Nevis, how much that has grown. It has. And how many catamarans we see coming out, and the cat cruise, and this type of services that they're offering. And there's, we're catching it, Devonne. We're catching it, but we're slowly catching it, and there's still so much more work that we have to do, because we still have to find that balance. Yes, it is going to be able to provide some financial relief for us, the recreational use of our coastal areas, but as it relates to the protection of those areas, because obviously if we have more tourists coming and they're doing more things on the beach, and we ourselves are doing more things on the beach, the likeliness of more litter getting into the ocean increases drastically. So I am proud that, you know, SKNYPA was able to lend our voices as well to these types of conversations, and we do recognize the importance of food security, because in St. Kitts and Nevis we have a very high import bill. When you go to the supermarkets, you can tell that the boat ain't come yet. You can see when the boat ain't coming. Oh, we have a caller?
Yes, we have a call on the line, so we'll take this call right now. We actually had 3 calls, but...
Oh, okay.
Caller, good morning, good afternoon, sorry, you're on Inside the News.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is SKNYPA'S. I want to say that I'm very proud of my fellow SKNYPA'S bringing the message from our resolution to the radio line. And I just want to support them in terms of the timeliness of the resolutions that were brought, particularly the Maritime, the National Maritime Policy and Action Plan. Definitely an area that I am passionate about, and I thought that it was indeed time to bring awareness. I think the one I would have even mentioned educating the youth from young of the importance of the blue economy. The very things that we eat that are part of our diet, we need to understand the importance and the disadvantages that would come along if we don't participate in sustainable fishing practices or practices that are unsustainable for our blue environment and blue economy. I think not only educating them about the importance, but helping them to understand that in terms of littering, pollution in the ocean, how it could affect our sea turtles and different organisms living in on our marine ecosystem. I think developing them, that is what the resolution was trying to bring about in terms of that awareness, helping persons to understand that this is an area that has a plethora of opportunities. As we speak about diversification of the economy, just thinking about the jobs that could be available once you tap into this resource-filled ocean. And yes, the also the idea that we are a large oceanic state. We basically have more water than land. And I think that the resolution would have helped to bring about the importance of this ecosystem and our economy. And I just hope that persons would tune in to the broadcast of our debate that is on our social media pages to understand and hear more about the point. But just to call in and support them and say, I'm listening and they're doing a good job, keep up the good work, team.
Hassani, thank you.
Thank you so much,
actually
caller.
the one that was a co-author of this resolution.
Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. And good contribution put forward there by Hassani. You know, I wanted to add that as you spoke about us protecting the marine environment, I remember seeing a headline from a particular country where they had to turn back a cruise ship because of them wanting to come to release their stuff. And so the minister charged with maritime affairs, he was like, no, because even though we're gonna probably get $50,000 from you coming here, no, the long-term negative effects and impact of you coming here and releasing all of this and damaging our coral reefs is going to affect us negatively.
Way more than that, the $50,000.
Way more than $50,000, 3 times and 10 times as much. And so I think the problem for some islands and generally people is that we don't see the importance of protecting the marine environment, and we just think is that some fish swimming around in the ocean.
No, we just think that we're going back.
Yeah.
We're going back.
And that's a problem because you know, we've seen, as you mentioned, you know, there being a lot of opportunities in this field. I know there are some people today that are very successful. They're renowned environmentalists and marine biologists and people working in this field making a lot of money, a lot of opportunities. They have established big businesses. They have done environmental impact assessments for governments across the region, and so there is a lot that can be done. And I like the fact that SKNYPA took the decision to have this discussion, which is forever timely, because it needs to be had. It's something that we need to talk about as much as possible, and you know, try our best to educate our fellow young people on the importance of protecting the environment, and of not just young people, but people generally across the board. I like when one of the suggestions was to educate the population and preserve the marine cultural heritage of our country, including the history of fishing villages, shipwrecks, and designated marine areas. I love that because people simply don't know. We're heading back to the phone lines and we'll take this other call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Devonne.
Good afternoon, Miss Henry. How are you doing
Yeah,
today?
man, I was waiting to call you, but I was being blessed. Somebody came to bless me. God bless. I need visions. No wonder they said need is nice. Lord, I was begging some bush on the radio.
You get it?
The gentleman Bonnie. You know Bonnie? He said from Codacode. He went down your way. You know Bonnie?
Bonnie? No, I'm not from Codacode. I'm from Stony Grove.
I don't know a family. I run a bad village. Anyway, man, he blessed me so. Just when I was about to call you. So thanks to him and thanks to all the others who gave me bush. I was begging cinnamon bush. That's what the Bible says, You have not because you ask not. Sometimes you well want, but you don't ask. And then you sit down, nobody give me nothing, ask. So thanks to all those who heard my request. Oh, before I go ahead, a sister of mine, Yvonne Walters on surgical ward. She needs blood, so she has whether positive or negative. So if you're out there and you can donate, could you please check the lab? You have to give them the name, Yvonne Walters on surgical ward. Now let me get to the young people. I am impressed, I love to hear good, sensible, educational debates or presentation. It does something to the mind. It stimulates the mind, And they must have put in a lot of work into doing their presentation, whether for or against, I made some comments before about Patrice Owen, which I think she should bear in mind next time. You're the government, present what you're doing. When you start to give all the shortcomings, then it means that you are inefficient, incompetent. You can laugh it off. You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. She's listening to you as well.
You be considered if you say, we suppose we should have that. Then it shows incompetence. Now, a young lady, they was talking about not knowing the history of the fishing villages in St. Kitts. Well, here I go talking about myself, narcissism, as my friend does say. My daughter, Carol, she did marine biology for her first degree and resource management for her master's. For her master's, she did this study on the traditional life of the fishers in the BVI. She had to go down, I think she spent 6 months down here. She had to live between them, go fishing with them, interview them. That I always said that would be a good thing for St. Kitts. Where you're able to interview, take Newtowns. Most of the older fishermen die out. Some of them now they fish in banks. It would elevate the sector in the people's mind. I had planned to do some work on Newtown, but then, I got blind. But so I would encourage the young ladies, give it a try. You have give it a try. The men are willing to talk. Want to see, because you got to go down to the level, My daughter said, Lord, she never sit down between some drunken people. But you live with them, you work with them. I think I gave a copy of the paper to the archives, I'm not too sure, but I gave somebody. So I want to encourage her. Now let's get to the thing. If you listen to the news this week, you would have heard the opposition leader in the Barbados Parliament calling for the firing of whoever gave the Prime Minister advice on having the ships birth.
Yes.
And the damage it has done to the reefs. Now, sometimes we don't think about it, eh? Sometimes for a ship to get into a pier, they may have to pass over reefs, you know. I recall there was a case in Nevis, I don't know if you remember. I think the Nevis government took a ship to court. Do you know about that?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, we'll find out. Yes. Some of them come and they think that, oh, the small island people, they don't know nothing. So they open the sluice. I think this one had damaged the reef. Because the type of fishing we do, we depend on the reefs. Because we put it down pots. You're not going to put down pots out in the middle of the ocean. You put the pots near the reefs. And some of the programs that we have, we now have a lot of water taxes. What effect, if any, are they having on the sea? You may say nothing. It may be something. Where the route they take. Because that was one of the issues. The ships, the boats, I don't know if they do it still, they used to, when they're going to Nevis, sail near the coast on the peninsula.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you so much.
What I'm saying? They may actually go into the secluded spaces. So a lot of things there for us to think about. Recreation, those who dive in, you know, those who go down there and steal our things. And then you see them advertising them on the internet. Go down, they may go down into the Christina, or go down into a sinking ship. And next thing they're selling, because according to the law, anything down there belongs to us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do we have laws in place to recover what is taken? And like in Antigua, they cannot take the black coral.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Carla. I'm going to take some more calls. So.
Oh, I'm happy. So tell the young lady, I said, give it a try.
Okay, she was listening to you and she'll give you her feedback shortly. We'll take this break quickly to say thank you to the sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation on WinFM 98.9. Let's take this short break and we will be right back.
TDC Automotive is paying for you. Deposit? We're paying. 3-month installments? We're paying. Pay nothing for 3 months because we are paying. Take a moment, catch your breath, and roll out with ease. Save over $20,000 off your new Toyota Hiace because TDC Automotive is paying. Get your Toyota Hiace today. TDC Automotive, #1 for a reason. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. It is 8 minutes past the hour of 1. Thank you, caller, for your contribution. We want to get from you, Ms. Harris, your take on the contribution by the caller and some of the recommendations that were put forward by her. What do you think?
Well, I want to thank the caller for her contribution. As usual, Ms. Henry does raise some very valid points about the use of the marine space and the examples that she would have mentioned in other areas, other islands that is, and how important it is for us to ensure that we have a legislative framework to support some of the solutions that will allow us to maximize on the blue economy. I am a bit perplexed by her initial comments about my representation of the shortcomings highlighted by the government. what I do recognize is that as with any great debater and with anyone willing to engage in a debate or conversation, you have to concede where there are areas that are inadequate. And even in my presentation as the Prime Minister, it would have been quite irresponsible to make a presentation that did not speak to the current shortcomings and that provide validity as to why we saw it fit to bring this type of resolution. So how dare we go into the House and speak about ICT development and not speak about how difficult it is not having central governments and not having so many of our processes and registries online. That would be quite irresponsible, and the opposition would eat up that quite naturally. And so we could not remove the reality of the day from the conversation. And our youth parliament sittings, they don't just serve as an opportunity for the young people to stand, to grandstand and to look their best and to place themselves in position to capitalize on further opportunities. But our youth parliament sittings are our flagship programs for the involvement of the youth voice in the decision-making process. This is our contribution to ensuring that democracy continues and that we see young people being involved in nation building, and this is a voice that we speak on behalf of the young people, if they so allow us, to ensure that what we think and what we consider to be the greatest components of these topical issues are ventilated, are spoken and are said in such a way that it allows for persons to recognize that, hey, we do have a real challenge when it comes to doing business. We do have some real challenges when it comes to maximizing on our marine space and capitalizing on the blue economy. And we cannot sit away, we cannot shy away from it, recognizing that there are challenges. And that's why we bring, since I have been president of SKNYPA, I have never encouraged any debates that are non-controversial. I like the controversial topics because people are talking about them. They're talking about them at their water coolers. They're talking about them in their homes with their friends in the alleyways, in the streets. But the conversations need to be brought to on a national platform.
Right. We're going to head back to the phone lines. Let's hit this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. You can call us back at 466-0989-762 and 662. The phone lines are open and we are still taking your calls. The caller is back. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm back. Good afternoon, Patrice.
Good afternoon, Miss Henry.
I love your spirit, you know. Remember when you're in Parliament, it is you against the opposition, eh? So you don't give the opposition ammunition against yourself. Basically, that is it. You understand?
That I don't give the opposition ammunition against myself?
Yeah, when you're in Parliament.
Okay. But what I...
You get the point, right?
What I'm trying to suggest is that I cannot walk in there as though everything... Sorry?
You can't be a politician then.
I have never stated publicly or privately that I have an interest in the political arena, so I'm not sure But I understand what you're saying, but as we're having a discussion, a conversation now, everything had to be placed on the table.
It's a good thing. Now I want to make another point. In terms of getting industry other than fishing. Because we don't fish enough large quantities to do things like canning and so. But the marketing of the fish has got to improve. I know they started, I don't know what has become of the contract they had with the fishing thing and Ram Supermarket. I don't know if it's back up again. But we need something like that, eh? We are fishermen where they come in, they bring in, they catch. And then they collect their money. But that doesn't seem to be working. Now, what I was thinking about is the CMAS. CMAS industry.
Yeah. It's blooming right now.
We have a few people who make and who produce CMAS drink. I was
we're
listening
seeing
to
hair
another
gels
thing.
as well. We're seeing hair gels and a lot of other products coming out of it as well.
Right. So I'm saying we know they can be done, but we should make an effort to do it. Because the more value added you get to your product. We bought about the Sigasa seaweed and how it smells and whatever. But I heard on the news, I think it's a youth group or something in Barbados, producing fertilizer from it. Have you heard about that?
Yes, we have, and even here in St. Kitts and Nevis, there are some initiatives that
they're doing
private
St. Kitts?
entities, not the fertilizer, but I think there is something I saw that Mr. Samuel Duggins is involved in quite recently. I know that in Antigua, they might have shipped some of it off to Finland. There's a lot of research being done.
That is what, so we want to, the research has been done, we want to see us do it. You know, so sometimes some of us who are unemployed, and not me really retired, you know, these are avenues that we can go. Because while it is a nuisance, it has economic value. So I want to encourage you, the young people, you know, you get the ideas, you hear about it, give it a try. All right, then, Devonne and his guests.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. We're still taking calls here on 1FM 98.9. It's 16 minutes past the hour of 1, and we're going to continue this conversation. I'm happy when the caller spoke about the impact. Okay, before I continue, let's take this last call and we'll continue the conversation. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Please turn down your radio.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cornelius.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to you again.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, it's like this is a continuum of the Inside the News program a week or two ago.
A week ago.
Yes, and it's an interest, a topic that interests me. Yes, following on the series, the CMOS, which Mrs. Henry spoke about, I did mention the other day about the bladder wraps. So there are other seaweed that are there which are beneficial to our health and which can be developed into products which would be organic and more, friendly in terms of the negative effects it might have on the body or the skin. And so that's the way to go. But I want to touch on the conventions of the seas, the international laws, the maritime law here on St. Kitts, that if we are not careful, there are some concerted efforts by old fisherfolk that have this thing at heart. I have heard of Kenneth Samuels in Newtown that has echoed some sentiments on another radio station about how these ships that grace our shores that brings food products, but yet there are times when a ship might be offloading and another ship is forced to anchor out in our roadstead. As a result of the anchoring, the anchor per se is one of the problems. But the long length of train that is being let down and the movement of the ocean flow by the ocean current has the tendency to somewhat sweep, like how I say, well, what the trawlers does to our ocean flow. That train has the tendency to sweep the ocean flow and as a result reduce the effort of persons who have given a concerted effort to, harness or build artificial reef for fish habitat on our ocean floor in our roadstead. As a result of this, certain fish species like what we call the boatfish, muttle hamlet, and other fish species are almost extinct. So how can we get those ships that come to our shores abide strictly by our maritime law that I know are in place, but they are not being enforced enough when those ships come, and they do an enormous amount of damage. They actually reverse 30, 40 years of concerted effort to, create habitats for other fish species that are almost extinct. How can we go about that? Another thing I want to touch on is that just like on the land where the farmers go to their farm and they do other work. It's not every day they go to the farm and they cut and they reap crops. There are times for reaping and there are times for sowing, as we know the old adage. There are times for everything under the sun. Likewise, there are times for the same thing that apply to the ocean. And the ocean is much bigger than the land. So how can we apply these things to fisher folk? And as a result, we can probably mitigate even persons who go at sea and even get lost at sea for whatever reason, because there are times that one should not be in the ocean as opposed to times that they should be there and go and have it. We have lost some of the things that is very, very important to our lives in a sustainable way. So how can we adhere by certain laws, certain ethics, certain things that nature dictates so that we can harvest our fish, not when they are spawning, so to speak, when, you know, the fish is filled with 1,000 to 2,000 young eggs. And here is it, we're going to take that out, or a lobster, take it out, and all of that goes to wastage.
Right.
How can we enforce these things so that there's always another generation of fish stock that we can look forward to harvesting the next season, so to speak.
Right. Thank you, Carla, so much for your contribution to this program. We're going to continue this conversation as we have just about 10 minutes left, and we're going to begin wrapping up thereafter. The takeaway basically from the caller was that how are we going to better protect our marine resources or marine ecosystem, from the cruise ships and all these things coming in and laying off their waste and laying anchor and all of that. Who wants to tackle that or give a response to what the caller stated?
I think to myself, and I've had this opinion for quite some time, that it is tremendously not an easy position to be a leader of any small country, because there is so much give and take that you have to engage in. You have to stand for the rights of your people and what is in the best interest of your people and your country, especially for years to come. But you still have to be able to recognize the limitations that we don't have large manufacturing plants, we don't have oil or gold. We really have to utilize what it is that we have, our human capital and our environment, whether it is land or sea. And how then do we strike that balance to move towards economic growth and financial sustainability, but still be able to do so in such a way that it is sustainable and it protects our environment, it protects the best interests of our people. So yes, we know we need the ships to come because that is an industry. We have taxi drivers, we have so many persons within our country, St. Kitts and Nevis, that directly rely on a plane landing and a boat docking, that there are certain there's only so much leverage that we can have sometimes, because they also to recognize that this is a prime source of revenue for us as a country. So I am not suggesting in any way that we need to give in to any of these powers, and that we just need to be single-minded and insular in focusing on, hey, this is the tourism industry that we have to thrive, but it has to be with balance, and it has to be with sustainability at the core. You even look at it now with so many conversations about cruise ships coming in and persons having to be vaccinated, and the reluctance towards the requirement for vaccinations, even on especially coming out of Florida, even in the United States. but you'll have your taxi men knocking on your door saying, hey, we need jobs, we need an opportunity to earn, we need an opportunity to eat. But then you still have to think about, hey, the public health of your country, hey, the environment, hey, our core values. So it's never an easy decision to make, being in leadership. But I think at the end of the day, we have to always do what is best for our people and ensure that it is not to the detriment of any future generations.
Thank you for that, Ms. Harris. Do we have any other comment that you guys would like to add at this time?
Well, Devon, one of the things that we spoke about while debating the resolution, the management of the resources that we have in the ocean. So we spoke about having closed seasons during the mating seasons for different species. So that's something that could be better enforced, so that, as the caller spoke about, so that we don't misuse our resources.
Mm-hmm. We're going to head back to the phone lines. There was someone trying to get in. The numbers are 466-0989, and we'll take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. Caller, you're on the air.
Devonne. Oh.
Hello,
Hey,
good
good
afternoon. Yes, go ahead. I'm hearing you.
Okay, just giving my input to the caller who would have called just now with reference to the ships anchoring, and I know that later down in the resolution there was mention to the importance of hydrography, which would definitely solve the issue that you would have spoken about, because we know on land when we want to navigate, we go to our Google Maps, we go to our map, but the ocean too needs to be mapped in a way that is accurate so that ships who are coming would know to stay clear of the reefs. And time again in the region we see that we are still using outdated chats, as they're called in the nautical terms, and it's high time that the governments of the region begin investing in updating these chats so that we could have accurate chats for the use of our mariners who are coming, and so that we don't have this issue of anchoring near reefs, we don't have the issue of anchoring on beds that would affect our fishers, and all of that involves the all-of-society approach that we need when it comes to managing our marine resources. And he also even went on to mention the fact that we have all these conventions, but at times we don't enforce them, and it comes down to us investing not only in enforcement agencies on the land, but also the sea, because as Duana would have mentioned earlier, we are small island developing states and a large oceanic state, and oftentimes we forget this, and as we invest in our resources on land, we often leave the ocean behind, and in time we'll see that it will catch up when we begin to lose our resources. And so it's time now that, even now before we begin losing them, that we invest in the hydrography, we invest in the enforcement agencies who will see to the protection of this safe and important resource, which is our blue economy.
I'm wondering if that caller would like to say who he is.
Well, if the voice didn't pick up, this is Muriel Knight, and I too am a SKNYPA'S.
Thank you,
Muriel Knight, thank you for calling, Muriel Knight. I know who it was from the beginning, but I just felt that it was important for you to let the public to know that this is indeed the voice of another youth parliamentarian, and Mariel is the second co-author of the resolution. So he too, just like Hassani, would have been intimately involved in the crafting, research, and the creation of this overall resolution that we would have debated on September 13th. And Mariel is also the outgoing vice president. And you know, he's the incoming something very soon. I don't want to say what it is, but I want to thank you, Mariel, for calling. And I also want to thank Hassani for his contributions earlier.
Yes, we have just 57 seconds left until it's 1:30, and so we're going to begin wrapping up this conversation today. I think for the most part we were able to cover both resolutions and get feedback from callers and get your take on the resolutions presented. And so at this time I'm going to allow each one of you to give your closing comments and what you hope to achieve going forward, not just as members of SKNYPA, but as generally young people in St. Kitts and Nevis? Go ahead. Anyone?
Okay, so I recognize that we did not mention the reason why we had our grand debate on September 13th. It's because SKNYPA turned 20 on September 13th. Is the association, you got a bomb to drop out of them anyhow. The association celebrated its 20th anniversary on September 13th. This has indeed been a momentous occasion for its members, especially its founding members and honorary members, because of the great contributions that SKNYPA has been able to make to this great state of St. Kitts and Nevis. We look forward to the continued support of the public in general, as well as the government, we and the corporate sector. We did receive we did see several companies come on board and make monetary and in-kind contributions, and that lended to a very successful 20th anniversary celebrations, which will conclude tomorrow with our annual general meeting. Later today, we're going to be heading up to the Five Ways area where SKNYPA will be adopting a spot, and we will be laying the groundwork for the SKNYPA Vision Pack. So I want to thank everyone who has been involved in our 20th anniversary and everyone who has supported us over the years. And we look forward to the continued support in the years to come, whether it is financially or otherwise, or just by taking us seriously when we do have our debates and our conversations. So thank you, God bless you, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much, Patrice, for that. Jillian?
Okay, well, I wanted to say I had a great time being here to lend in my contributions on the ease of doing business as well as the maritime policy. And I just want everyone to, look at what we are talking about and formulate your own opinions. I want each stakeholder of this country, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is just improve on what we're doing here and to create a better business environment. So, if the government and even the public, they can look into this even more so that we can push this further. And, with respect to the maritime policy, I think that this policy, if it doesn't have any exposure, that it would give teeth to the blue economy and to the fostering of that economy. I really would like to see more economic diversification in that area. And I'm so thankful for being here, and happy 20th anniversary to SKNYPA.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Duana?
Well, I would just like to echo the sentiments of Jalen and Patrice. I would really like to see these resolutions that we work so hard to
tirelessly
to prepare seen and heard by the wider public and by the government and even the opposition to be debated in Parliament on a national level. And I realized Patrice forgot to mention our social media handles.
Go ahead, Miss Bradley.
So I would just like to encourage everyone to follow SKNYPA on Instagram, on Facebook, like our page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thank you for having me today.
Yeah, and stay tuned.
Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you guys so much for accepting the invitation. And I hope to see you back in the very near future. I'm sitting here as a SKNYPA'Rian and as a WinFM journalist, but I'm a SKNYPA'Rian right now. So we'll be back. We'll be back. This is the end of Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. We have a program coming up at 2 o'clock, and then stay tuned at 3. We have some exciting DJs that are gonna rock your. What's the name of the show? Backyard something. Stay tuned to WinFM 98.9. I've been your host for today, Devonne Cornelius.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com